All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Behind the Register. I'm really happy to have Maureen of 2530 here. And we're going to talk about probably what everyone's been thinking of and everybody wakes up and thinks about is coffee, and getting behind the scenes of the coffee business through COVID and where we're at now. So, hey, Maureen, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So I imagine you're just at home right now, right?
I am.
But you've been busy, so I want to catch up on all those things. But let's go to the beginning and give our listeners just a little bit of history. Were you always in the coffee biz, or how did you get into it?
Well, no, I wasn't always in the coffee biz, but I had a restaurant back in Phoenix, Arizona, and a gentleman came to see me about having my own signature blend of coffee. So I went to his warehouse where he had all these beans, and we put a few beans together and we came up with a signature coffee for my little restaurant. And it absolutely hooked me. Now, I also was already hooked on coffee because I've just always loved it. We had a little cafe kind of thing in my hometown when I was in high school. And so I hate to say this, but I used to ditch school and go hang out at the coffee shop. So, that's where everything was really happening. People were talking, met a lot of interesting people. And of course, coffee is wonderful. So that's kind of where it all started. I joined the Coffee Association, which was in its first year at that time. And back in those days, the brokers would send you bags of coffee. So I would get coffee that was estate grown, organic, this, that, Rain Tree Alliance, you name it. And so I got to experience just a multitude of different types of coffee. My freezer at home was nothing but bags of coffee. I didn't have food in it. That just propelled me into, the coffee, Starbucks was just becoming a thing. And it was like, my dad, who was my partner in my restaurant, I asked him, I said, why don't we start a jazz coffee house? And so he was all for it. And we were going to sell the restaurant and open this other thing. Unfortunately, Starbucks being who Starbucks is, every time I picked a location, they would come in and take the location.
Oh, wow. This is in Phoenix.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And the surrounding, like Scottsdale and stuff.
Yeah, I've been to Scottsdale. It's really lovely.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. So when that didn't pan out, I think 3 to 4 times they came in and took our spot.
Wow.
And of course, as a property owner, who are you going to go with, a startup mom and pop or Starbucks? So that all happened about the same time that I got pregnant with my twins. And shortly after that, a year after that, my husband got a job with the government out here. And so we relocated. And so that's how I ended up out here.
Okay, so that's how you ended up in Fredericksburg then.
Yep.
Right. And so how old is 2530?
We opened in December of 2007.
Okay, great. Awesome. And so did you find that this in Fredericksburg was a better location than Phoenix? Was Phoenix like more urban and that's why Starbucks was going in?
We looked at the big concept and we looked at some big spaces way back when, and we just didn't feel it had the same possibilities as what Phoenix had. My husband, who was a commuter, kept bugging me that there was no coffee available for him to get on the train with, and a bunch of his friends. So the building that I'm in now came up for rent. And so we started making little inquiries and things like that. And one step just led to another. And they were all green lights to go ahead and put this coffee shop in. So that's basically what we did. It took us about a year.
So it took you a year of just making the inquiries and then to opening up.
Right. Yeah, all the construction and whatever.
Was that because of build out?
No, I mean, I wasn't like super motivated. It's not the right word, but I wasn't super, let's get this done really quick. I'm sure time, but I mean, it takes time with the city and the permits and all that sort of stuff. And, it was it just kind of took that long from the time that we said, let's, think about really doing this to the time we opened our doors.
Got you, got you. So did that all pan out in terms of let's open this coffee shop and it will serve commuters? Did you like have the schedule in mind and did it work out like when you first opened, or were you discovering like, oh, I gotta do something else because it's a different population or
Right. Our original business plan was to close the door, like we opened at 4:30 in the morning and to close at 10:30 in the morning just to connect with the commuters. I'd be there working and doing paperwork or whatever, and people would keep coming to the door throughout the day. And I would go and lock the door and fix them a latte and send them on their way. And so I'm like, well, maybe we should extend our hours a bit. And then, shortly after that, and we did, at one point we were open every day till 8 p.m. because the trains kept coming back and somebody always wanted something to go home with. But that's when the market crashed as well in
in
08, 09.
oh wait, right. Okay.
So at that point, of course, we are doing everything we can to get business.
Mhm.
So, that was our first economic woohoo. You got to pivot, you got to do something. And so, I mean, we did all kinds of marketing things and what have you during that time period, and it eventually passed. And we built a lot of loyal customers through that. So,
And so when that happened, do you think like people were just like, okay, well, I'll cut out the coffee? Was that the first thing they cut out when that happened? Is that what you discovered?
no, they did go from larges to maybe mediums or smalls.
Uh-huh.
We definitely saw that. Maybe they didn't get the muffin with the coffee as often, but no, everybody's got to have their coffee.
But they were still going to work. They were still
Yep. Yes.
commuting, right? Those that have that
Yeah.
jobs, and maybe they had some, furlough days or something,
Right.
correct? I
Mhm.
got you.
Yeah, we went through a few of those.
Yes. But luckily, like, it's a little stable enough, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It carried you over. So okay, so then there was like many years of this, right? And you got your rhythm, I'm sure,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so do commuters get anything at the end of the day when they're coming back or not? Are you open at the end of the day?
Not any after the economy of '08, people really did change their buying habits. So they maybe didn't do 2 lattes a day. Before, we would have people lined out the door on the way home, and that just went to nothing. So,
Oh, wow. That's so
um,
interesting.
yeah. So, we started closing, a little earlier and earlier and earlier, and we're now close at 4. So, yeah, no, that definitely changed.
And so, and also you're kind of like in the named Darby town of Fredericksburg, right? Do you love that name? I think it's kind of cute.
I love Darbytown.
Do you find that you're also more like a neighborhood spot because you're kind of there and servicing that neighborhood too, right?
Right, and we have a civic association there in Darbytown, and it generally before COVID was quarterly that we would have our meetings, and so everybody would come to the coffee shop, and we would have our meeting, and we'd have guests, and go over business and what have you. So that met my want and desire to be, fully involved in community and everything. We definitely have the neighborhood.
That's kind of cool because you're just kind of in that little nook of Fredericksburg, like in that corner area. So fast forward to so you mentioned COVID, and I'm sure that changed a lot of behaviors, to put it lightly. Tell us what happened. Like, did you close down? Did obviously people weren't commuting to work. Give us a little bit of like what happened that time there.
We were very fortunate. We did not have to close down. We had installed a walk up window
Oh
uh,
yeah.
for the commuters primarily prior to this. And so that became a really big thing for us to be able to offer people. We also have our own app so they can pre order, prepay, and just pick up.
Awesome.
So we had already implemented quite a few things that made it a little bit easier for our transition through COVID. We did at a short period of time of reducing our hours, just because everything was so chaotic and unsure of what was going on. The community, oh my gosh, the community supported us so much, coming for their coffee and buying gift cards and doing
Awesome.
things like that. But we really promoted the walk-up window, the order on the app, how we'll have everything ready. And of course, we were very strict on our, sanitizing and making sure everything. We were very, knock on wood, fortunate. None of the staff ever got COVID. Different people were exposed and they were given time off and different things, but not a single employee got it.
So was there a different proportion of your customers now? Did commuters drop off and then you got more of the local? Is that how it
Yeah,
worked out?
absolutely. Commuting went away. I mean, everybody's working from home.
Right.
And so we're starting to see that trickle back. There's a few more people going back to work now. So we are getting a few of those again. I seriously doubt it'll ever go back to the way it was.
Like fully.
Right. I mean, you got to figure 1,200 people got on that train every morning just at the Fredericksburg station. So, they're all gone. They're all home making their own. So we do our bagged coffee. We roast now.
Right.
And
I thought I saw that in the back, so we could
yeah,
talk about that too. So were you like, thank God I implemented the window and this technology that you did you have an inkling like this is the direction, or you just thought like these are good ideas that we should do?
we just really wanted to service our customer and make their life as easy and pleasant as possible. And
Right.
those were two ways that we could do it. So no, we had no inkling. It was just by good fortune, I'm
But
afraid.
that was really smart. So talking about the blending now. So you have experience because you've tasted a lot of coffee, right? And so now you have your coffee. Did you always have your own blend since you started, or did when you moved to Fredericksburg?
No, we had cut all ties back in Arizona
Right.
with any of that. But I did a lot of homework and found the best roasters at the time. And our original roaster was from Seattle, and we were with them for, I don't know, a year or two. We eventually connected with Counterculture Coffee out of Durham,
Oh,
and
cool.
they were so cutting edge on their coffee that really nobody could compete with them. I mean, there's a few competitors, but they were really, really on top of their game. And so we used them for years, until we started roasting.
Okay, so now you have a roasting machine and you're roasting. So are you giving directions on like how you want the flavor to be, and then you have a roaster that kind of does it?
Right. I bought the state of the art roaster. It has zero emissions, because I wanted to make sure that we were environmentally friendly. It's computerized like no tomorrow. Um, and so what we do is we will roast a certain coffee several different ways, maybe 3 or 4 different ways. And then we will taste test them and decide which one brings out the best in the beans. So if we're looking for chocolatey notes, okay, it's this recipe that we are going to go with. Now, my machine is really good, so I can program that recipe and it duplicates it exactly.
Wow.
So the old days of old roasters where it was really the roaster, the
It's the
person.
skill in the hand or just like the eye and nose and right.
Yeah, that's not required. And I knew I wouldn't have the ability to have that person. And so that's why I went with the roaster that I did, so that I could have that control and people wouldn't be getting one time this
Right.
excellent cup of coffee and maybe not so excellent the next time.
Right, because who knows how long you can have a roaster or different, like, but if
Exactly.
you can standardize it with the machine,
Yeah.
then you know that the product will be very standard in that way. Oh, that's really cool. So when did you bring that on?
Oh gosh. Ooh, it's been almost 2 years.
Okay, so before COVID too,
Oh
when you
yeah.
started
Yep.
roasting.
Yep.
So you never had to shut down, which is cool. Did you do any kind of like crazy pivots during COVID as well too? Or were you just doing like walk-up windows and
Yeah.
that? Or were you then being like, oh, we got to sell coffee online or no?
Well, we had already put coffee online, and we definitely sold coffee online and still do. You know, we simplified our menu a bit so that we
Uh,
weren't carrying as much stuff. Beth, our baker, you know, would try and do special things to entice people and get them to come in. We did, well, we have a liquor license, so we can offer cocktails or beer or wine. And we did to go cocktails. So, you know, it was kind of like wherever we could find a little spot that we could push, that's where we went.
So with the liquors, how is it not popular for the commuters coming back?
It all happened at that same time.
I would think they would get coffee in the morning and then liquor when they're coming
I
back.
think they're more worried about
Driving.
driving. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, most of these people have families that they're going home for,
Right.
and you know, dinner's on the table, and they
They're
just want to go home. They're tired.
Yeah, from the day and from the commute and things.
Yeah,
That's funny. So you opened a second location, right? Was that last year and was it during COVID?
it was during COVID,
Okay.
December. Last December we opened, which was just craziness. You just didn't know what was going to happen, you know, how
Right.
long it was going to last or whatever. But we are out at the Merchant Square shops just off Courthouse Road and Brock, where all the apartments, I don't know if you've been out there, but there's a whole slew of apartments. And that's where they have the big 4th of July celebration for Spotsy. So,
How'd you decide that location?
you know, we had looked at that location way back, and always thought that it, you know, it was going to be a good location at some point. We got approached to look at it again, and the demographics were finally there. And
Mhm.
so we said, okay, let's do this.
When you said okay, was it COVID then or was
Oh,
it
yeah,
before that? It
no,
was.
it was COVID then. Well, I guess it had just started.
When you're starting the conversation. So
Right.
let's say it was like March and then you're like, okay, were you like this is a good time to expand because it's kind of like there wasn't going on, that much going on. So was it you were like, well, this is something for us to do, put our kind of investment in, and then as we come out of COVID, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Was that kind of the thought?
It was. I was again fortunate where I had some extra equipment, so I didn't have to pony up tons of money to put equipment
Okay.
in.
Right.
And of course, my landlord was good. So it just seemed like the right time. I knew we would be coming out of this COVID soon. So I figured, you know, we'd get our feet wet and work through the little it I'm sure you know, having a second store, boy, if you didn't have systems in place, you will soon,
Right.
because having, you know, two entities really complicates. My accountant calls me and yells at me all the time.
It's a definitely an interesting learning chapter, I guess, because when you do your first one, you're like, oh, this is great. And then when you start thinking about your second one, it's going to really push you as a business owner. And then you're going to discover other things that you need to be aware of, or how to manage two teams, what systems can commute to, like, translate into both locations, or just how they're each separate.
Yep. Yep.
Because it's probably a different audience. You don't
Oh,
have a commuter audience there, I'm assuming, right?
sure.
And it's more kind of like local based as well too.
Mhm.
Did you know you always wanted a second location, or you knew after 25-30 you're like ready, like after the first one a few years?
Yeah, we've looked at locations over the years. Nothing ever really panned out the way we wanted it to, so we never went ahead with it. But, you know, yes, I always wanted a second location.
That's cool. Oh, and the build out, was it easy? Was it hard during COVID? Like, was it hard to get workers, or like the supply chains?
Yeah, we definitely, I mean, equipment took longer to get, and I was fortunate the construction was done by the landlord's construction team. So, but of course there were delays, you know, with that as well. It's hard to find a contractor these days. It's really hard.
So you opened that in December, correct?
Yes, late December. Mhm.
Do you feel like at that point, did you feel like people were a little bit more used to COVID and that it was okay opening? How did you feel opening at that time?
Yeah, I think people were a little bit calmer about the whole situation. And of course, we did the masks and the distancing and all that sort of stuff. We also put a walk up window in this location. So anybody who didn't want to come in could still be serviced. So we got a great response. When we put feelers out, do you want a coffee shop out here, etc. We just had a tremendous response. And so that was all great. It was like move ahead. So
Did it help that it was December and it was like the holidays and
no.
Thanks for watching or listening to our podcast. Love Fredericksburg, support local, and visit our spa at skintouchtherapyspa.com. Is there a busy time for your industry?
It's a little bit seasonal, but pretty consistent overall. Our best seasons are really from now till late summer.
Okay.
The colder it is, the less people go out. Maybe when the kids go back to school kind of thing is not a busy time for us. But, we offer ice drinks and frozen, hot. So we kind of cover all the seasons.
Do you also offer food and liquor there too?
We don't do liquor yet, waiting to see if the demand is there with the apartments and what have you. Definitely an option that we'll pay attention to in the future. But yeah, Beth bakes for both stores, and we always have goodies in the case.
So your first location is kind of like your like HQ, where then the baking and the beans are being roasted, and then you distribute to your second location.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's great. And are you finding that like, does your staff go to both locations, or are they just liking one?
Some definitely go to both. Some are college students and don't have cars, so they're always downtown. Manager at the Spotsy location, I have a manager at the downtown location.
And how often do you hop back and forth?
Pretty often.
In the same day, or do you kind of split days?
Oh no, I mean it's pretty regular because we're always, stocking up the pastries, because everything's fresh.
Right.
And so that's like a regular thing, getting bags of coffee. So it's pretty much a daily kind of thing. I was hoping that it wouldn't be, but I'm working on systems, but so far not that one.
So you're like the mule that like brings everything back and forth.
Sometimes, yes.
I try to split my days between Culpeper and Fredericksburg and just keep it a day so I could just work here. And then, but I am the one that carries things back and forth in case inventory and things.
Yeah.
But our stuff isn't fresh baked goods. It's just skincare. So it's
But
okay.
you have a longer way to go. Mine is, 15 minutes. So
I do. It's funny. Yeah. And it's interesting. The distance makes a difference, because now I have two individual staff. Some commute, but not a lot are willing to,
Right.
So I'm the one that really commutes there too.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll have more locations, or did you just, it's too good? Is it too early, too soon to ask?
Well, we're always open-minded to the prospects of the future, but our beans are going in the Fredericksburg Co-op this week.
Oh, cool.
So we're super excited about that.
Yeah, that's really, I've been seeing like pictures, and I think that's really interesting. I think the community is really going to be excited for that to come in.
I know I am.
And then, so what about your online business, like online sales? Did that increase? Are you going to move a lot forward with that?
We are going to move forward with that. It's not something that we like put a lot of marketing into. So I think we will in the future. I have no idea, honestly. I haven't spent a ton of time researching online market. It's definitely on my to-do list to look at that better. But I know it's popular for a lot of people just to order their beans delivered. So it's just definitely something that we'll pursue.
In terms of like your restaurant background, are you like, I love focusing on just coffee and coffee culture and not a restaurant?
Definitely. I loved my time having my restaurant. I had a catering company before that. I like food, but it's not my thing. Coffee is my thing. And so I look forward all the time to learning more things. I do a lot of nowadays online courses on roasting perfection, and it's very deep, believe it or not. I mean,
Like
the more
the world of it, right?
the more you learn, the more you find out you don't know much. So
Well, that's with everything, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
and you become just like kind of that expert, which I love because when you go, to anyone that's been in their field for so long, that's what you're really getting is this kind of, because you know the range, you know the history, you know where it's going, and you've seen and tried, and that you could then put out your best recommendation and best product too.
yeah.
What are some kind of coffee trends that you see coming up?
We started with new spring drinks, and Spencer over at the Spotsy location is very cutting edge. And so we introduced a butterfly tea coffee latte. You can also mix it with lemonade or tonic. They are really yummy. Then, of course, matcha has been around for a while, but we've introduced a couple new matcha drinks. So those are, you know, kind of trendy out there in the coffee world. I guess those are the big things for coffee. The industry is booming, so I'm sure there'll be more stuff. But the instant world, the little K cups
Right.
and instant coffee is coming back in. So we're definitely going to pursue those in the future.
Like trying to be in a K cup or
Mhm.
producing your own K cups?
Yeah, we'll produce our. Well, there is a company that will
Will
ship
do it.
our coffee to. They'll package it all. Uh,
Um,
we won't package it in house, but
and what about like making the instant? Is that just like freeze drying it? Like,
yeah, there's a method behind it, and then it's put in little packages. Starbucks has had it out for a long time, but there's some other companies that are introducing it as well.
and that's doing it more for smaller independent people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're traveling or some people really like it.
Yeah.
The quality has improved, dramatically.
From your
So
folders.
yeah, so getting a good cup of coffee in those two ways, it's not a bad way to go.
It's so do you find that when people taste your coffee, they like are like, this is it, I really love it, and they're loyal because of, your expertise, but like where you're trying to go with it?
Yes. Yes, I think so. We have 10 different coffees right now from all over the world. So there's something out there for everyone,
Right.
whether you like chocolatey notes or nutty notes, or you like it really. I mean, there's coffees that are tea like, there's coffees that taste like blueberry muffin.
That's
So there's something out there that somebody's going to like. And so that's the fun part of coffee, I think.
I think so too. I mean, I think there's just it. You can have this range. You can cocktail it or like create new things with it, which is, I think, the fun part of it. And gives that adventure and experience for those people that really love it.
Yeah, we're looking to do some blends. We haven't done blends in the past other than our espresso and our cold brew.
Uh huh.
But we're looking to, pair up some different coffees and see if we can get some really nice blends out of it.
So I want to ask too, as COVID now, like numbers are going down, people are coming back out, people are getting vaccination. Do you feel like they're gonna want that like coffee culture again in terms of like sitting at a coffee shop with their friends? And do you see that coming back, or is it still a little early?
No, we're definitely seeing it. We have small groups that are coming in and sitting and hanging for a little bit. I can't wait to put our outside furniture back out so that people can enjoy that. I think people are starved for community. We're looking to do, some little events that we can bring people together again. Um, yeah, I think people are just starving for it.
I think so too. I mean, because some of it is you see a smaller group if you had like a pod of people, right? But
Right.
I'm sure there's this whole, other tier that you would connect with, but because of COVID, you had to just shrink that all down. And now I think like when you're more comfortable and when everyone, has that comfort level again, they're gonna kind of really want to reconnect, almost like I haven't seen you in a whole year and a half. And coffee is that kind of way to bring that together where it's like, let's sit down, let's have coffee, here's a place, let's be outside. And
We have a community table that's, just larger, more people can sit at together. And we'll see people, one or two people sit at that table, and then somebody will join them and they'll start a conversation, and then somebody else will join them. And that's the best, when we know that people are comfortable and, able to meet new people and communicate and stuff. So
Right. Yes. So are you finding that kind of traffic is picking up a little bit more
we
or
have seen it the last month. Uh-huh. Yep.
yeah. And is it because of the weather too, or just because people are getting vaccinated and or
Well, I think majority is the vaccine and the numbers going down and what have you. But of course, the weather always helps. So
and do you feel like with your second location, you kind of timed it out, like open December and then kind of get your systems, but like by the time things warm up, you're like kind of
we're,
jogging along.
we're ready to roll. Yep, definitely. We have systems in place, to get drinks out quickly, and it's a bigger space. There's more seating, and we plan to do a lot of events out there, different kinds, everything from wine tasting to we might even do bingo night,
Nice.
been
Yeah.
thrown out there. So yeah, whatever it takes to get people together.
I think it's interesting because, as me as a business owner, when COVID was happening, you're just like, okay, well, we're not going to do that. And we're going to take away, we're going to take away. And now it's like, there's a little bit of hope that in the next couple of months, it's like, okay, well, we could do this and kind of bring back the feel and like why we got into things and give back that experience for people. And like, obviously we thank our loyal people that came to us, but now it's like, okay, well, we could fold in this and you're probably excited to do that.
Oh, we really are. And there was a little time there that I wasn't sure how to go back to that. Not that it couldn't go back, I just didn't know how to get there. So I think we've, talked it out and worked it out and stuff. And I think people are accepting of those ideas again. So
Right. Yeah, because you just don't know how foreign or just where people are at. So it's kind of and as a business person, you're always just planning months ahead, right? So it's hard to gauge right now what someone may want, in a few months, just because you just got to get the temperature reading of like where people are at, but you don't want to not plan because you don't want to rush at the end if things open up or if they don't. So
right.
it's such a hard place to be.
I mean, all these restaurants that have put out the outside seating and the fire pits and the tents and everything, that has been amazing to me. That with a lesser revenue stream, and here they're putting all this stuff out. God bless them.
I know. Well, I mean, it was just so hard. I think every business owner last year was rethinking every system, every protocol, and you were doing so much more work for less revenue, but it was just to stay open, just to
Yep.
have some momentum. And, hopefully it carried them over.
Hmm. Yep.
But yeah, it was not easy, and I think everything had to be rethought. And even, if you didn't close and you were operating, steadily, but you still had to think, okay, are we going to do this? Are we going to close? Are we, so there's always that kind of rethinking. And then in 2 months, you had to redo it all again. You
Oh,
had
yeah.
to
Because
rethink.
something new came up. Yeah.
You had to be like, okay, am I going the right direction? Is this where so it was just like a lot, I think. And that's what I've been finding talking to people and stuff.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so I think you seem at a great place. What are you looking forward to besides like events this year too? Are you planning more new things? Are you going to ride out this year a little bit?
We definitely are planning lots of events and ways to get people together. I think we really just want to get a feel for that again, and get back on solid footing. We'll definitely pursue our bagged coffee and that sort of thing sales, as far as directions of business. But honestly, we just want to make coffee. So
I know some of it is like we just want to do what we came in to do,
Right.
and like and I'm sure people are like, we want coffee, we
Yeah.
want to come
Yeah.
back for coffee.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I love this conversation. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Could you just give the listeners the address of both locations and then your website and then what social media they could follow you on?
Sure. So the main location is 400 Princess Anne, just under the railroad. Can't miss it. It's a bright turquoise building. And then Spotsy is 7501 Graham Street, Suite 120. And you can't miss that if you find the pavilion. We're right there in front of the pavilion. And the website is 2530espresso.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook. I guess those are the main ones, and the web. You can always find us under 2530. I think Instagram is _espresso. We're very active social media wise. Always
I
have.
know I love following you guys.
Oh,
Do
thanks.
you have someone doing it or do you do some of it?
The manager at Spotsy, who is my daughter, but
Right.
yeah, she's doing a fantastic job.
That's good because it's just a lot you don't really want to be doing.
And believe it or not, they don't want me doing it. So.
Is she gonna want to do TikTok eventually? Are you gonna be like,
she has done a couple TikToks.
that is awesome.
So, yeah.
And you talked about the app. So do they download the app on the App Store?
Yes, whatever type of phone you have. And that's 2530 Espresso. You load your card information on it, and then it's very quick and easy to order. And it comes through a tablet at the store, and we get it ready for you right away.
That's awesome. I love, kind of circling back. I love that, there's a lot of things that were just like kind of Starbucks-esque, like these technologies might have been only reserved for that. But now as an independent, small business, you can do those. You can do the same thing as what Starbucks is doing. You can do the K-Cups, you can do the dried, which is so awesome because it just really levels that playing field.
It really does. And we're looking, I haven't found it yet, but to do a loyalty, we have loyalty cards. So if you come in, we definitely use a loyalty card, but I would love to have one that's electronic,
like digital.
And offer, cool things like maybe a new Chemex to brew at home or, t-shirts or whatever, sure. Not just a free cup of coffee.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. And how did you get the name 2530?
25 degrees north, 30 degrees south is a growing region of coffee around the world. It's what's called the coffee belt. So just that middle portion of the earth. Coffee really doesn't grow above or below that.
Oh, that is so cool. I just never knew. So I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that is a perfect way to end this. I love this. Thanks for talking with me. And, we've been buddies all around, but we've never really connected and sat down like this. So I love that.
Well, we'll definitely have to do it again, maybe over coffee.
Yes. And we both love community and to, gather everyone. So, all right. Well, thank you. So we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this episode of Behind the Register. I'm your host, Brian Lam, and this episode was produced by Haley Harkins. Special thanks to Fredericksburg, Virginia Main Street for hosting our episode. If you like what you've heard, support us, share, comment, and like us. We'll catch you next time on Behind the Register.